basketball at its best.
No second chances.
Go hard or go home.
Show me what you got.
Make history or be history.
The National High School Basketball Championship, March 11th through 13th, live from Freeport Grand Bahama, only on Cable 12.
An American visitor gives a horrifying account of a botched procedure at the Princess Margaret Hospital. This as the hospital hits back at the allegations and defends its reputation. Residents will have to endure smoke from the city dump for a few more days. Plus, the Potters Key development plan is finally underway. We've got those stories and a lot more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. One visitor's horror story of his experience at the Princess Margaret Hospital has taken social media by storm. In an interview with foreign media, Jake Tyler Biersdorf claimed he underwent a botched procedure at the hands of local doctors after waiting for hours at what he described as a disgusting hospital. And he's now taken to the internet to solicit funds to pay for his medical expenses. But while some are crying shame on PMH, others are questioning just how true the story really is. The Public Hospitals Authority says it has launched an investigation into the claims.
And I woke up in the morning, tube being all the way open.
Doctors had sliced more than a foot through the center of his body. His skin tied together with only about a dozen stitches.
I freaked out. It still makes me sad, just angry, but it's difficult to deal with because they told me the entire time I was there that I would be fine and that my appendix was out.
In a tearful interview with American TV news station Fox 8, Biersdorf detailed his, quote, rough visit to PMH that reportedly left him with a foot-long scar on his abdomen after local doctors told him his appendix had burst and they had to clean out his insides. He also detailed the unclean conditions he was kept in.
There's about 15 of us in one room, and it's not a clean room at all. And the whole facility was just disgusting. They changed my dressing in a storage closet. Not kidding.
And his story didn't end there.
Back in Minnesota, Jake rushed to the ER, where doctors operated and added 40 staples, and would shock Jake with another discovery.
When the doctors came out and told my parents what had happened, all their jaws dropped. And they didn't want them to tell me about it because they didn't know how I would react to it. They came in and told me that my appendix was still inside of me when they opened me up.
The dramatic ordeal has made its way across social media, with many voicing outrage over his experience and calling into question medical practices at PMH. But noted surgeon and former director of PMH's Accident and Emergency Department, Dr. Duane Sands, branded the account factually incomplete and inaccurate.
I've worked in the Princess Margaret Hospital for 22 years, and while there are some serious challenges with Princess Margaret Hospital and the public healthcare facility, certainly when you see this type of damning, accusatory allegations that seek to destroy the reputations not only of the individuals but of the institution, I am offended.
Biersdorf's account was also detailed by one of his friends on GoFundMe, a website where people can solicit money. In Biersdorf's case, the page is seeking $15,000 in donations to cover medical costs, claiming he underwent a horrific nightmare and was left unstitched for 4 days. But Sands said that's a standard operating procedure.
Well, as I understand it, this patient came in with a life-threatening problem with a perforated appendix, an infection throughout his abdomen. He was operated on by one of the senior surgeons who made a considered decision to do an operation which is entirely appropriate and to leave his abdominal wound open. Absolutely normal. As a matter of fact, I do it all the time, and it is done when you have a particularly ill patient or an infected scenario.
And Dr. Loxley Monroe, surgeon and president of the Consultants Physician Staff Association, echoed Sands' comments, telling NB12, quote, "With infection, complete closure is not advised at the time of initial surgery because of increased risk of surgical site infection. A delayed closure with 40 staples is susceptible 2 weeks later." And both Sands and Monroe maintain that Beiersdorf's appendix was in fact removed. As for claims Beiersdorf's follow-up was held in a storage closet with random items strewn everywhere, according to the GoFundMe page.
The impression of the dressing room used to do dressing changes adjacent to the male surgical ward is a matter of perception. For some who might see it as too small to be a dressing room, you might call it a closet, but it is indeed a dressing room, and it is a place where countless patients come for ward review of their wounds and for dressing changes.
The GoFundMe page also said Beiersdorf waited 14 hours until doctors determined he had a ruptured appendix and needed surgery. But Dr. Monroe said long waits are the standard. Our news team reached out to Beiersdorf, but he did not respond up to airtime. Officials at the Fairview Southdale Hospital in Minnesota declined to comment.
The challenge here is that very scurrilous allegations have been made that defames the professional integrity of an entire institution, a number of medical professionals, and the country as a whole. And given that, I have to take great exception, because what happens at Princess Margaret Hospital, despite the limitations, despite the challenges, is nothing short of amazing.
Well, PMH's medical chief of staff today refuted claims that the patient was a victim of a botched procedure. Dr. James Johnson said he's comfortable with the level of care the patient in question received and also defended the level of professionalism at the hospital. Kyle Joaquin reports.
While the press conference went by rather quickly, doctors here at the Princess Margaret Hospital used the opportunity this afternoon to defend PMH over claims made in that Fox 9 report. Flanked by doctors in the critical care block of Princess Margaret Hospital, Dr. James Johnson, the medical chief of staff at PMH, explained the process of when the patient in question, Jake Tyler Beiersdorf, arrived at PMH via ambulance on January 7th, was assessed, treated, and taken into surgery.
At surgery, the condition discovered was consistent with the preoperative diagnosis. The care provided was consistent with international standards and best practice. He remained in hospital for a period of 5 days, recovering as expected.
According to Johnson, Beiersdorf was discharged on January 12th, and after being released after 5 days, Johnson said the patient didn't voice any grievances with his procedure, and to date, PMH has received no verbal or written complaint from the patient.
The patient seemed to have been quite satisfied for the 5 days that he remained in hospital after the procedure. There was no indication that he was dissatisfied in any way.
But in seeking clarification on certain portions of the report, Dr. Johnson said it would impose on the patient's privacy and would require his permission.
We have a little difficulty in that we have not received any permission from this patient to release any personal information. And so we thought it probably best not to reveal that kind of personal information without having permission from the patient.
The medical chief of staff said he has spoken with the doctor who performed the surgery and he's satisfied with the work done. He said there is no question that there are a few much-needed upgrades and renovations to the public hospital. But the hospital, he added, provides a good level of service because while they are physicians, they are still patients as well. Now, as for the patient's claim that the dressing to his surgery wounds was changed in a storage room, PMH Administrator Mary Walker dismissed that as well.
We would never put a person in a closet to render care. As we go through this phase of redevelopment, we are attempting and in best way we can to make sure that the environment is as safe as we possibly can make it for patients, staff, visitors, and anyone who enter the facility. And that's the extent of that statement.
As for Biersdorf's claim that he was gutted like a fish, a defensive Dr. Johnson refuted.
Is that a question?
I mean, I guess like he said he was butchered. Yeah.
That's the question?
Yes.
The answer is no. As I indicated to you, the diagnosis which we discovered at the time of surgery was completely consistent with what we thought we were going for. And we conducted therapy consistent with what would be done anywhere in the world.
Johnson said doctors at PMH are concerned, which is why they had the press conference. Now, as for the Fox 9 News report, Johnson said PMH was never contacted for a response. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Residents may have to endure the smoky fumes hailing from the New Providence landfill for just a few more days. This according to Chief Commercial Officer at Renew Bahamas, Michael Cox. Cox took our news team on a tour of the site. Simone Davis reports.
As we drove up the hills touring the dump, we could still see small pockets of fire still burning in certain areas as the smoke still billows over communities like Jubilee Gardens, and men hard at work to get the fires under control. Cox explained exactly how the fire started and spread through the area.
I'm taking you down the back towards the Murph just to show you the side. So again, the fire is mainly on the side of the road, of where the roads were, and not on top of the landfill. And we're hoping just to be able to push the fill over the edge of the area and down, so it should be a lot quicker to put out than previously. This section here and that section, you see the three areas that I've just shown you, which was this section that runs up here, the other side of the road over there, and then at the back on the other side of the road that ran up to the top where we went onto the top. You can see that the tops haven't got any smoke and fire.
He noted that there was also another small fire last night, once again believed to be the work of an arsonist.
Officials at Renew Bahamas says it usually costs the company anywhere from $10,000 to $13,000 to out the flames and completely get rid of the smoke.
So an estimation I would say is probably around $10,000 to $13,000 per day. So this isn't something we want to continue. $10,000 to $13,000 per day that Renew Bahamas pays for.
Many residents, mainly in Jubilee Gardens, raised grave concerns yesterday about their health and issues they've encountered that were caused by the toxic fumes from the city dump, and expressed that they were fed up with living under those unbearable conditions. Administrators were also forced to close certain schools yesterday because the smoke was just too thick and students and teachers found it hard to breathe. Cox said although Renew's doing all it can to prevent future incidents from occurring and affecting residents, he's still asking for residents to do their part to prevent fires as well.
There's a lot of work being done, which you have seen where we've got the tops of the landfills covered. Some of the things that we want to move further on is people not tipping at the sides of the road and people not tipping short of the tipping zone. If we can get people to tip next to where the dozers are, it's a lot more straightforward to cover down the landfill each night. If people stop along the whole road and keep tipping shingle and wood and green waste on the sides, as you've seen, it's really difficult to stop outbreaks and fires of that nature. We continually every week pick that material up and move it, but as we pick it up, someone else comes around dropping it behind. We need the public support.
Officials confirm that they are working to have the fire and smoke completely under control by Friday. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
When NB12 returns, we'll give you an update on developments at Potter's Key. Stay with us.